Randall Hughes with God Glorified, and we're commenting on our reading for today for June the 24th. And we covered about 20 years of history here in the time from about 901 BC to about 881 BC in the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. And this included the end of Baasha, who died, and his son Elah reigned. And then Zimri, the captain of half of his host, killed Elah while he was drinking in his house and drunk. If I'm reading that right, it could be that saying that Zimri was himself drunk, just the way that reads in chapter 16, verse 9. That could be confused possibly. But anyway, Zimri killed Elah and began to reign as king. And when it was heard that that's what took place, there was Omri came and killed him. Well, actually surrounded him. And when he heard that he was surrounded, saw that he was surrounded, he burned the palace down around him and died in the fire. And Omri began to reign with Tibni for a short period of time. And then the death of Tibni happened, and Omri prevailed against him and made Samaria the capital. That would have been about 895 or 894. And then Ahab began to rule with Omri, believing it was a dual reign. And then Omri died, and Ahab began to reign thereafter. And then Ahab began to reign, and he was one of the most wicked kings ever in Israel, marrying Jezebel, who was a Zidonian, who was, they were worshipers of, they killed their babies. I know that. And I'm wanting to think of Baal was the primary one that they worshiped, that Ahab gave himself to worship. And then now we reach the end of the life of Asa, and he was diseased in his feet, did not see Yahweh. And Asa died, and Jehoshaphat, his son, began to reign. And during this time, the prophecy that Joshua made by the word of the Lord, that if someone were to rebuild Jericho, they would do so. They would lay the foundation in their eldest, and they would hang the gates in their youngest. And that took place with Hiel and his oldest son, Abiram, and his youngest son, Segub, according to the word of Yahweh. And so the prophecy made hundreds of years before that would have been probably back in probably 1400s. And now here we are in 881, roughly. 886 was Jehoshaphat began to reign. It was about that time. And so some amazing things that took place that you can get into the story on some of these, and it's hard to stop. And so Elijah told Ahab that there would be famine and that there would be no rain until Elijah said so. And God sent Elijah to the brook Cherith to sustain him, and then to the widow at Zarephath. Interesting, while he was at the brook, the ravens were bringing food, meat and bread. And heard an interesting message one time that the preacher was saying it was possible that where would there be plenty of meat and bread but King Ahab's house? And so it may have been that Elijah was actually eating from the table of Ahab, from the birds that were bringing him the food. Who knows? But at any rate, there was certainly food there for him, and God supplied and provided. Then when that dried up, he sent him to Zarephath, to a widow there. And it seems selfish. He said, make my cake first. But because she did that act of faith, of self-sacrificing, God honored that. And the cruse of oil and the meal in the barrel did not fail until there was rain. And God fulfilled that. And so some amazing, amazing truths. God honored Jehoshaphat and blessed him. And one of the great verses, it says, when it was talking about his mighty men, was Amasiah, the son of Zertri, who willingly offered himself unto Yahweh. And so would that be said about each of us, that we willingly offer ourselves to God? At the same time, seemingly, that there was a widow in Zarephath who was looking at her last cake. She offered it to the prophet. When she reached back into the barrel, she poured the cruse. There was more meal and more oil. May we have the faith. God grant us the faith to trust you more, to believe in you, to supply our every need. God bless you. Have a great day.